like to call to order the regular Town Commission meeting of April 11th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Here.
Commissioner Campo. Here. Commissioner Fender.
Here.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have no proclamations and presentations on the agenda today. I have no public comment card. Is anybody from the public who would like to speak, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Commissioner Campo.
Yeah, I'd like to make an addition to the agenda, which would be immediately after the resolution that's hopefully going to be creating a fund for the tree education. And I'd like to call that, should be just 2 or 3 minutes, an Arbor Day education event. So with that, I'd like to approve the agenda with that one addition.
I'll second it.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Yes.
Commissioner Fender,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes. That brings us up to item 6, the consent agenda. Any questions or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented?
Second?
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman.
Yes.
Okay, we have no ordinances on the agenda today. Brings us to item 9, resolutions. Resolution 957, restriction of revenues received from tree permits and fines under Town of Sewalls Point Municipal Code, Chapter 70. Town Clerk, please read the resolution title into the record.
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, earmarking fines and donations involving trees and the unauthorized removal of trees be segregated into a line item for each annual budget to be utilized for the promotion, purchase, and supply of trees and ancillary items involving landscaping.
Thank you. Mariah, do you want to give us an introduction on this item?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commission. So what we had heard, there was discussion previously that the funds received from the tree permits and the fines, I guess the mitigation fines, was supposed to be put in a separate fund to restrict it for purposes, that you guys set up, like education or trees, and then the canopy. I was trying to think, what's it called, the tree canopy? And because of the size of the dollar amount we're talking about, and speaking with our auditors as well, it's not conducive to set up its own fund, but we can set up restricted, basically, monies in the general fund. So that's what we're proposing to do here, and that's what this resolution does. After the resolution is adopted, we will come back with a budget amendment that will basically show the restricted dollars that can be spent for future purposes. And then we'll track it every year. Basically, any revenues that come in, we will make an adjustment on the quarterly budget amendment and up our expenditures, so then we know how much we have to spend of those monies. And then the following year, when we're budgeting, we will carry forward those amounts. So.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. Let me ask a couple first. Will this appear as a separate line item under the Building Fund 101?
It won't be under the building fund. It'll be in the general fund.
And why is that?
It's still considered general fund revenues, so it's not necessarily with building. It's not, the monies aren't generated by building permits. It's tree permits, so, which is general government.
Okay, and do we handle this, will we handle this the same way as we did for the millage increase? In other words, any money spent out of this will require the commission to review and approve it?
I was kind of looking at, there might be some smaller expenses out of this with the same limitations that I have of the $10,000 limit. But if it's something that's, a couple thousand that we did something with, obviously I'd report it back to y'all, but sometimes, well, I really don't have a problem, so it's really whatever you want to do.
No, I think that's
Either
reasonable.
way.
If it's, below your spending limit, please go ahead and just let us know what you did.
Okay.
Commissioner Fender?
Just, sounds great, but I just want to clarify that the values we're seeing on here is what would appear in the, I don't want to say line item, because I think you said there wouldn't be, but we've collected $108,000 and that, and spent $26,000, and so I assume that would mean that there was the difference of that would be available, 80,000-ish?
Yes,
Uh,
correct.
Now, an $80,000 shortfall in the budget, is that going to impact us in some other way? When we weren't anticipating this to be used in that manner.
Well, it's basically what happened at the end of the year. At the end of the fiscal year, it just gets rolled over into the general fund balance.
Okay, but I thought we were not accounting for it in the past.
We recorded the revenues.
Yeah.
So we did account for the revenues. And we did have, in our budget, we do have tree expenditure. Like, right now, we have expenditures that are accounted for. If this is.
Expenditures being the 26,000.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
but I'm more worried about the difference. 108,000 is a reasonable amount. I mean, that's great. I'd like us to do something helpful to the community regarding trees with it, but I want to make sure it's not impacting negatively something else.
No, it's not.
Okay. Well, it'd be great to see that identified in the future. Great, thank you.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes. I just want to confirm, kind of in line with what you said, that you said this is not big enough for the auditor to be restricting it on the balance sheet, correct? So this is something where the town is keeping track of.
So we will, when we do our budget amendment, we will be putting basically a restricted line, just like we have for the operation, the general operating restriction line.
Right,
and
for the
restricted
millage
for the
increase?
fire.
Okay,
So the
yeah,
millage, yes, the millage is restricted, but that goes into a separate fund.
Right.
So this is still going to stay on in the general fund.
Right.
But it will be on the balance sheet, and it'll say, restricted.
Okay.
So, and then,
but then clarify what you said about the auditor at the beginning, that meaning it,
so it's not large enough to, and the revenues aren't consistent enough to justify setting up a separate fund. So like
Okay,
the
okay,
capital
okay.
fund or the building fund, we wouldn't need a tree fund.
okay,
So,
okay. And then my other question would be, thank you, Mariah. To the town manager, this is a few years of revenue and then just, it looks like mostly regular maintenance. Do you think the 83,000 is a good amount? Do you think it's too much? I mean, I'm not sure. You have some line items there of what we're thinking we're going to do with it, and I support the use of that, but do you think that seems like a,
Well, it is a hefty sum, and I don't foresee us having plans of going out and spending $83,000 within this fiscal year. I think it's money that we can carry over from year to year, not knowing, the fines, and again, they fluctuate.
Right.
And I know we do have some liabilities out there that, will possibly be transferred into this account later on down the road, but I don't expect that to happen for another year or so. So, but as we do get fines coming in and, or donations even, we can segregate them out in the future. But it is, a good sum of money. I'm probably not as positive as Mariah is on the effect that would have. But again, we're not spending the money right away. So if we needed to take a look at that down the road, we can. It's everything. We can modify things if we need to, and again, that's something I wouldn't be modifying. It'd be a decision that you all would be making. So it's so I think we're okay to keep an eye on it, and I think there are some ideas out there on things that we can do, and so I look forward to seeing what we can put our heads together to get done.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Campo?
I was going to move approval.
I'll second, but I had one more comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So, to me, these funds were collected for mitigation purposes, right? Which means that's probably what they should be used for. We don't have to use them in a fiscal year, as you mentioned, we could use them in a future fiscal year, but there are a few things outstanding. The tree that was impacted on the tunnel.
Correct.
Where the truck hit, and also, in the past, separate from this, is some commissioners had found a way to make a tree program available to residents after a pretty bad impact from Hurricane Francis and Jean, I believe, where there was like a tree giveaway, where residents could come and pick up a couple of trees of certain variety to plant in their yards, so, I don't know.
We're looking at a lot of different options similar to that. Also, just slipped my mind what I wanted to let you know about, but I think, you know, there's other things that would be helpful promoting trees as well, and I think that's where the education piece that's in here. And granted, there are mitigation funds, and, you know, we will have other funds that will be coming in to do it over a period of time. So I just think, just, you know, and maybe there's something that we need to make sure we have a carryover. That's the main thing with this, is it's not only just an accounting thing, but every year now, when we go and we do our last budget amendment at the end of the fiscal year to balance all the books, that's the one that we have to make sure we carry that money over into this account. And so, you know, whether I'm here or somebody else is here, or whether Mariah's there or somebody else is, those are the rules of the game that we have to follow. And that's really the main purpose of this resolution.
Great, I
Can I
second
s-
it.
can I ask a quick question?
Commissioner Mayfield?
Just to clarify, Town Manager, on the second paragraph of your memo, it says that it would require budget adjustments to the expense account quarterly. Is that just kind of the guide you and Mariah are using to keep it up to date? There's no real, just to be?
Correct.
Okay.
And
All
that,
right.
that would fall into the quarterly budget amendment that we historically do from time to time. There might be a quarter we don't have to do an amendment.
Okay.
But we would tack that onto it.
Okay, thanks, that's it.
No other comments? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to our new item 9B, Arbor Day Education.
Well,
Commissioner Campo.
I didn't want the ink to even be dry on this before I found a great cause for it, and I didn't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but we've got benefit of having Arbor Day coming up. It's the 29th of April, and I'd like to propose an event that we could start this year and maybe grow upon it, which would be used to have some free tree giveaways. And I've been in touch with a major grower of trees that will hopefully, you know, not only help provide the product, but also education as far as different kinds of trees, right place, right tree. I've got an event coordinator that we can work with that could kind of grow this into. No, don't leave on me, okay? Grow this into an event similar to what we've had as Easter and 4th of July and Christmas. This could be a Sewalls Point event, just like we've had, you know, and then everyone loved the Easter egg. I mean, that was such a joy seeing the kids run around into the playground that we all helped, you know, build. It's fulfilling, in addition to the salary that we get, as far as the purpose of working here. So the event that I've got in mind, you know, we could probably get a corporate sponsor, such as we have had with Premier or Waterpoint or Illustrated with the other 3 events. We could have FPL, we could have some arborists, we could have some presentations, different kinds of trees. I favor this approach to our commitment to the Tree City and the canopy, a less punitive approach, a more educational approach, where we've talked before about recognition of trees. I'd like to have some of the publications, Stroll and that other publication, River Living, and maybe have them, rather than feature people, feature a tree. maybe have a contest, like the great tree with no people in it, just a big tree. And everyone's going to look at it and like, well, what's that all about? Well, that's who we are. That's Sewalls Point. So I think if we had an event that we could kick off, it could be here, we could have tree giveaway, we could have corporate sponsor, such as we've had before, do something in the park, involve kids, coloring contests. I've got a event coordinator that is on hand that I can introduce to Mr. Daniels. So we could give some trees away, we could have some education. I think we need to educate moving forward from that event. That could be maybe a kickoff, but we need to educate more than anything else, because who's actually trimming the trees? It's landscapers. So I'd like to have in English and in Spanish, some educational pieces that we can hand out to landscapers and say, hey, if you're doing this, check with No Town Hall. We could educate realtors. We could give an event. We could take out some sort of email and say, hey, these realtors attended this special training by Sewalls Point on the do's and don'ts of trees in Sewalls Point. Give them a little bit of recognition, because they're the ones that are coming in touch with buyers before then. Now, typically a realtor doesn't want to do anything that compromises a deal. Any realtors out there? I see one. So we want to enable, we want to facilitate their education, because they're the first line. And what's happened so many times that we've found is that people move into a house and want to trim a tree and spruce it up and do some painting around, and boom, they're in trouble. So what better way than to involve the realtors, landscapers, builders, and residents. So this could be a kickoff with, some dog and pony show and some glamour and some kids and education. But then we can kind of carry forward with some of the funds that we've just designated to educate the folks that are most in line with, what we're trying to do. We've always done a resolution. So we could have local experts. We could have like Tom Lucido, Mike Flaw, those types of folks that can jump in. Seminars. So at this point, really all I'm looking for is if y'all think it's a good idea for Bob to meet with an event coordinator, maybe come out with what that day would look like. Maybe we'd do it Friday, which is Arbor Day, maybe the Saturday after, maybe the Saturday after, because it's so quick. But I understand the nightmare on Oakwood, and we all want to make it a teachable moment. We all want to benefit from that, and not just curse the darkness, but light a candle for the next generation, so that we've got something that can come out of it and say, yeah, some things didn't go the way that we wanted, but we made some progress. And to me, that's the approach that I favor, and we seem to have had a little bit of talk about that, versus just coming out with a big hammer. I've spoken with some folks in that business. They say our code currently lacks clarity. So professionals and names that you would recognize. So I think before we get too muddy with some radical changes, I'd like to really focus on some education on what is a canopy, why is that so important? Just Tree City, why is that important? What does that involve? Why is that significant? Why does that make us special? So that we can get everyone on the same page. Then if people violate laws after understanding them, that's another story. But for now, I think they need the benefit of the doubt. So would any comments or objections to the town manager meeting with an event coordinator that could help, add some flesh to the skeleton that I've outlined?
Sounds like a great idea. I was wondering if, would it be too quick for you to get back to us 2 weeks from today with just a outline of a plan and some costs and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's going to be a problem. We're already looking at trying to do something with, supplying trees. But I think this plan is for an event, and I really think our events really are, are things that we can get the public, our residents involved with. And I think this can be something that we can look to in the future as being, again, another one of our star events that we do. And so, yes, to answer your question, long answers, but I feel that, yes, I can move forward. I might have to contact each of you if I need to do some commitments. I do want to at least let you know, and it'd be something that would be, again, within my parameters, dollar-wise, but again, I just want to make sure I'm transparent with the commission and that, what our plans are, and then I'll have a complete presentation at the next meeting.
You have a consensus? Sounds like we do.
Yes.
Okay. Great idea, James. Thank you.
very much for your patience with my long explanation.
Okay, that brings us to old business and review of tree ordinance, chapter 79.
Should be 70.
70, it should be 70, yeah.
70.
Okay. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, kind of taking some of the comments that I received and we received from our last meeting. My hope was kind of to go have you give another look at the ordinance with the structure of it. This is the original ordinance with the strike-through language and items that we wanted to change on it. It's our town attorney, even though he's running behind with traffic this evening, he did have a conversation with me, and the only thing he recommended changing when we delineate in this section, I can pull up the section, but you'll remember when you have to have so many trees on a residential property if it's half an acre or less, and so many if it's an acre and so forth. I specified in the ordinance, if we're going to change it, made a recommendation to do native trees. But he said that the better terminology would be non-invasive trees, because the native trees, what's native here could be different in the panhandle of Florida, and we're just better off dealing with non-invasive trees, which is what we're really trying to get rid of and not have people plant. So that's the one thing I just wanted to mention. And my thoughts are process-wise, if you all come to an agreement tonight on what you would like to see in the ordinance, I will get that back to Glenn, and we will try to get it through the reading process. But I think it's more judicious to work out all the, if, ands, and buts of the ordinance here in this format. So then next meeting that we sit down and we publish it and everything else, it'll be more of a routine. You will have already gone through it, and hopefully it's got the wording in there the way that you saw that you're going to mention it tonight.
Mayor, can I ask a question about that?
Certainly, go ahead.
Town manager, so is that throughout the ordinance, every time it says native, that would be changed to non-invasive?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so
if
we-
you
the
all don't
definition,
mind.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, sorry.
Commissioner Fender.
Sure. So I just wanted to preface whatever conversation we're going to have about this ahead of time. So firstly, just to piggyback on some of the conversation we had at the last meeting, now that this has been typed up and you read it clearly, and I went through it more in depth, I don't have a ton of problems with the changes, but I wanted to make sure that it was clear that any changes recommended in here, in my mind, were never intended to be punitive or heavy-handed. And also, your point, James, was your realtor friends or developer friends have claimed that our ordinance lacks clarity. So my only goal in bringing this ordinance back in front of us was to add the clarity that's missing. And my biggest, strongest missing gap in this ordinance is the fact that we don't specify that a mitigation plan is required prior to permitting. I don't think it's a huge ask. I think we should know. I think that'd be a standard part of the permit, which I assume is why it got overlooked and why it wasn't clearly identified in this ordinance. And so I'm really pushing to make sure that the mitigation plan, and to clarify some of your questions last time, the mitigation plan isn't the punitive side of it. The mitigation plan is the planning side of it, of what are you going to do to offset the impact you're going to have as you start your development, whatever that is, renovation or clear cutting or new house building. That said, I love all the ideas you brought forth a second ago, James, and then I had a couple of comments just in going through the list of questions from some of the residents about things we could do to try to protect the trees. And one of those is the newcomer information packet. Looks great. I mean, it's great that we're doing that. I didn't find a link to it yet on the website. Maybe it's just too new. It's not there yet. That's okay. But inside of that newcomer packet, I looked pretty hard to find tree things, and there are a couple, including a reference to the Heritage Tree Program. But it seems like when I was doing that research, trying to find that packet online, and couldn't, I did find the new resident information online, and it did separately also reference the Heritage Tree Program. My suggestion is to actually put the link to any Arbor Day stuff we might intend come forth in the future, and also the link to the Heritage Tree Program in the newcomer, new resident information on the website. And then also, again, reference it in your newcomer packet, which should also be downloadable from that location on new resident information as well. That's it. With that, I could make a couple of comments on the things that I saw when I went through this. And I'll point you first to page 21, section 70-21, which specifies the number of trees any lot must have based on size of lots. If a lot is under a half acre, it specifies specifically that you must have 8 native trees, which now will be non-invasive trees. If you are larger than a half acre but smaller than a acre, you need to have 12 trees. And I would recommend the third section, if you're greater than 1 acre, you should go with at least to 16 trees, but it's still marked at the same number 12 as a half acre lot. So my one recommendation is to increase the 12 to 16 on chapter 3 of 7021. And since we are on that topic, if you go to page 27, it seems, oh, I'm sorry, not page 27. My apologies. Page 23. It looks like that chapter at the top of the page is an exact duplicate of 7021, and it seems like you probably should just have one reference to this so that if you ever make a change to it, you don't forget to make the change in 2 places. Up to you. I'm just saying that I don't understand why it's duplicated in 2 places, but it could make reference back to the primary. Yes, please.
I think the first one is for existing residences, and then the other one was for new or substantial improvements.
Okay. That's
So it's
fine.
still, it's the same information, yeah, but I think that's
Do
what.
it either way you want. I don't care.
You say one and the other where? Like, what is?
The first one on page 21, the minimum
Chapter-
tree
Article
requirements.
2 and Article 3, I think, is what we're talking about.
Yes.
Article 2 is
Yep.
permits for existing development. Article 3 is for new residential development. I guess they have to be specified separately. I don't know. Maybe you could just make a reference to one and point to the other, but it doesn't matter to me. But whatever you like. I'm not losing sleep over that. I'm mostly losing sleep over the sections related to the lack of a mitigation plan. I'm just going to.
If I may, before you move off
Sure.
that, on 70-41, I think that does have the change on the trees. Did you say 14 or 16 you wanted to see?
I said 16, but
Okay.
it's open to
That's
debate. I'm
what's
happy to
here.
discuss it.
Right,
You s-
well,
Yeah, I did see it somewhere else.
yeah, in 41, but I guess, like you said, it didn't transfer
Okay.
over to
Maybe
21.
Maybe it's a mistake. Okay,
So-
that's fine.
And then also to that same section, I like how you added in on 7041, it says remaining, and then on 7021, it doesn't have remaining
Okay,
in there either.
so we need to make sure that.
The changes from 7041 go to 7021.
Then back to top of page 27, section 3. You scratch the, must mark the trees with red, yellow, or orange markings. I guess we only use orange now, but I don't care what you mark them with, but that, somebody smarter than me can,
I think we were just trying to pick one color, so, when we go out on the site, you see all these different colors, they mean different things to different people, so,
great, that's perfect. Page 32, section 70-155 is about mitigation. And it occurred to me that maybe the structure of that paragraph is incorrect, because section 70-54 is civil penalties, does not mention mitigation in the Commissioner Mayfield context, and so perhaps should, but the actual 70-155 maybe is, maybe the title should maybe be mitigation planning or something, so, because to me, the mitigation comes as part of the plan, it's not a punitive thing, it's a planning process. So, anyway, I think that's all the things that jumped out at me when I reviewed it, and I don't have issues with anything in there other than those.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I went through just a few little notes, like Commissioner Fender just did. Page 19, the top definition for documentation, looks like you added currently. I feel like that's redundant. I mean, I don't think you can be licensed. You either are or aren't licensed, or you are or aren't certified.
Can you tell me where on 18 you are again?
The top paragraph for the definition of documentation. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe the lawyer suggested it, but it seems a little bit redundant.
if I may, you could have been a licensed Florida architect, but if your license expires,
Right.
then you're not current.
But you
So I
don't have a
think-
license then, right? I mean, I'm just arguing semantics. It's
No,
fine.
you're right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Currently doesn't belong there.
okay.
You're the licensee, you're not licensed.
I think that was the rationale behind it.
Yeah. And then the definition on the same page at the bottom of natural function, it just seems odd. Plants produce food and oxygen by photosynthesis and remove carbon from the air. It's like something out of a textbook. I'm not really even sure how that relates to what we would. No, I mean, I guess it has a place there, but I just don't, I mean.
I think if you don't take care of it, it doesn't allow it to continue its natural function. So in the ISA manual, there are some
Okay.
restrictions that are in there.
Okay.
And I think that's why we're missing that definition.
Somewhere else probably makes reference to natural function, somebody will say, what does that mean? Well, here it is.
Okay, that's fine. And then on page 20, one of the comments off to the right, the last one said, use either site or parcel to identify land. I recommend site and change all parcel to site. But I see parcel map at the top and then site in the middle. I don't know if that should be changed to the same. And then page 21, the bottom of section 7021, number 4 says, the renovation or addition on any lot must occur without any tree removal unless approved by the chief building official. I'm not sure what the reason was for that addition there, because, I mean, the whole thing's about getting tree removal permits. It's already kind of implied. Can you explain why that number 4 is there? And it sounds kind of vague, the renovation or addition.
I can't, I don't know
Okay.
how that got added in.
Okay,
Well, I'm actually okay with it because I think it specifies clearly, if there's any ambiguity, that no, you can't remove any trees unless you are approved to do so and you get approval through permitting, right? So
right, it just seems redundant. I don't know, I'd ask
I
the
get what
attorney.
your point is, but I'm just saying,
Trying, in an effort to be
specifying very
clear.
that's what I'm saying, that's
Oh.
clarity to me, yeah.
And then page 22, the section 70-23, number 2, I don't think it would be, I think it might be helpful to leave in the consistent with FSS, the consistent with the state statute, because that is what that is from. That's clear. I think that should be kind of left in there, that that's what it is.
I had a kind of a question associated with that, and I was wondering if it's, if a tree is obviously diseased, and some of them obviously are, Is that a determination that Jack can make, or do we have to really get an arborist to say this tree has had it? Because some of them are, are really obvious that they're gone.
I think the rule is they have to have an arborist say that, right?
Well, I'm asking the question, is it reasonable that if the, tree's got a big gaping wound with bugs and everything else coming out of it, it's
You-
had its day?
You might say if it's not apparent that it's diseased, that they might need an arborist, but if it is apparent, the CBO could make that call.
That seems reasonable to me,
One of the other things that stand out is the mushrooms, when they start growing out of the tree, that's a sign of a fungus that the tree's going to die. So, and with those, the sooner you can dispose of the tree, the better off you are, because that can spread.
On page 23, section 7043, you added on, and any other tree abuse. I don't feel like we need that.
Where's that?
Yeah, I don't like
Section
that.
7040, yeah, I don't either.
What,
That's-
on 23?
It seems really vague and just,
Crude.
section 7043, the last edition, I would take that out. And then page 25, section 7081. Permit shall expire, permitted work is not commenced within, it got changed to 30 days from 3 months. What was the reason for that?
Just, the main thing is that if you're going to cut a tree, we want to have it being consistent with the time frame. So most building permits are 6 months. We didn't want there to be any misunderstanding that if we're going to grant you this permit, we want the tree to be brought down within a period of time. If they wait, and sometimes they might think that they can wait for a year later and then cut the tree down or do something else. And particularly if it's a diseased tree, we're going to want them to remove it as soon as we can, or if it's a dangerous tree that's spelled out, if it's a danger today, it's going to be a danger next week too, and why let the tree stay there in that condition?
Right. I feel like that's a little short, also considering it says, or if development activities interrupted for a period in excess of 45 days, well, that's already bigger than 30 days. I don't know.
I'm fine with whatever you all want. I was just
I
putting
thought-
this in as food for thought.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
I have no issues with it, either that.
Almost done. Then I think I had mentioned this last time, page 31, section 139, just getting rid of that.
Section
Yeah,
139.
About the getting, not being able to put a sign on the tree, or can't use a nail to put a bird feeder in.
Yeah, that's bogus.
Okay.
And then last of all is page 32, excuse me, the 7155 mitigation. Did we, that's, maybe it's
Can you
because
say
it's,
that the number's a little slower?
sorry,
for
I'm sorry.
us Challenge people that have had long
Read the
days.
list one on.
Section 70-155 at the bottom of page 32.
Right,
It
gotcha.
looks like, you're doubling it, and I think before it wasn't doubled. And maybe that's because it is punitive, the punitive mitigation, as Commissioner Fender referenced, as opposed to the regular mitigation. I don't remember us talking about that or saying if we thought that's fair. I'm not sure. If they're already paying a bunch of money, do we have to make them put in double the trees? I don't know.
I took that out on my notes from your meeting last time, so I can change that just as easily
Yeah.
as if, and I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
think it's two separate concepts, right? You probably do need a section on mitigation planning, but you should also have something in civil penalties about mitigation, right?
No, I'm talking about they're talking about if you.
The double
if
the
you-
caliber of
You have
the
to
tree.
put in double the caliber of the tree.
But we can talk about what mitigation should be, what is reasonable mitigation. I don't know about that. That's a longer conversation. We can have that conversation.
I mean, that's what we're doing, right? This is the time to be doing it,
If you
so.
want to have it, sure.
Well, I'm having it.
Let's have it.
I think that it should just be single. I think it should be the same, and then we have the fines. I mean, unless, It seems like a lot, just,
Well, so, just for the sake of having it, some people might say that if you are going to cut down one tree, you have to plant 2 trees in their place. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying some people have said that. Your suggestion is that if you're going to cut down a tree of some caliber, let's take a 40-year-old oak tree that is 30 inches around, are you suggesting that they're going to replace it with a like-sized oak tree?
No, but 1 for 1.
yeah, I thought it was just kind of what they
Well, that's
said.
30 inches, that's a
You're going
40-year-old,
BOGO.
30-year oak tree.
You're going BOGO on us.
Well, I'm just saying, I like BOGO, by the way, but,
I just, I wouldn't, I think it should just be single, and if they're paying fines,
what's the
then
wording-
we can
what's the
plant more.
wording you would like to see in there?
I think just how it was,
How was it?
Inch for inch.
inch for inch.
Let me just read it, hang on. Other protected vegetation on a double inch for single inch basis or accumulation. Tree diameters, doubling the diameter of trees removed. Okay, so you're saying that in the mitigation plan that we would want to put forth, if you are going to impact,
The punitive
tree.
mitigation, this is the,
I'm
You-
talking, to me, it's both, I don't care.
no, I don't think it is both, that's where I think we should specify. Isn't section 70-155 in addition or in lieu of civil penalties as provided for by this chapter?
That's what it says.
So that's only if you have gotten in trouble.
Oh, well, okay, if you've gotten in trouble, double it. But if you're planning, what you're saying is reasonable for someone who is following the rules, but somebody who has actually impacted you, well, why would you not then give them a stiffer fine, a stiffer punitive response, since they did not follow the rules?
Maybe, all
I mean,
these
to
other
me, that
things.
seems like a reasonable,
Well, I think in this case, they're going to be paying some civil penalties as it is.
I'll buy that. That's
Plus
fine.
the, I think inch
in
for inch. I
addition
think
to,
inch
it
for
says
inch
in
is fine.
addition or in lieu of, is what it says. It doesn't say in addition to. It says in lieu of.
I think that was kind of,
It says or in lieu of,
yeah,
Huh?
or.
or in lieu of.
Or in lieu of. That's what I'm saying. So what you said is somehow untrue then, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't think it needs to be double. I don't think it needs, I think that.
Oh, I would agree. I agree with you if they're going to pay the penalty.
That becomes punitive, and that's,
Well, that's the idea. This is the punitive part you just said. They knowingly violated the rule and have been found to be in violation of the ordinance. So you're saying, oh, it's no big deal. Just go back after the fact and
Where
fix the
does it
problem.
say this is punitive?
Well, right above it, it says, this is the civil penalties section, and right below it, it says, in addition to or in lieu of civil penalties. That's why this section, that's why Kaya got kind of off on the weeds last week about mitigation being punitive. And I'm saying, I don't even, once they've already done the damage is done. Charge them what you
Illegally
want. I don't care, I only care
That's
about the planning.
Illegally removed means,
Yeah, but nothing in 7155 says they're a repeat offender, which is what,
No, I didn't say anything about a repeat offender. I said an offender. They broke if it is the punitive penalties clause, they have violated the rule, and now they are being fined with a mitigation fine of some kind, which in this case, sounds like will be double or not, or they'll pay the price above, or both. That's what I'm saying. This probably needs to be clarified. I pointed up, say, let's move this up into civil penalties so that as part of the civil penalty, it includes the paragraph of mitigation. And however we treat that, I'm fine with. But I'm less concerned about the people who have already violated. I'm more into protecting and keeping people from violating. That's why I care about the mitigation planning and putting this in the permitting process ahead of time.
well,
The damage is done. We're not getting a 40-year-old oak tree back, right? I'm sorry, carry on.
no, I'm going to let the mayor.
okay, I think
I don't know who's-
Mr. Campo is next.
I'm on board with some of what you're proposing, such as clarifying definitions and having a mitigation plan in place before. Some of this other stuff, I think is going to be hard to get our arms around. Another tree connotation. I've got 3 trees on my entire lot, okay? I can't get my arms around any of them. So I would be in violation of 8 trees or 12 trees or 16 trees, because you're talking about the number of trees, and I think caliper is what creates the canopy, so I think we should really insert that topic is the larger, more mature trees. And so that's one piece.
Well, can I
I
address
think
that?
there's no definition of, what is a mitigation plan? There's no definition.
It's previous now. It's been added in.
It says what mitigation is a plan, but it doesn't say what a mitigation plan is. So if you're requiring a mitigation plan, you should-
70-22. Maybe it doesn't say specifically.
no, it's not in the definitions.
Okay.
Tree is, it's great that we're defining a tree. Let's
And what
start off with that.
What natural uses?
But it's a 1.5 inch, so you could get 8 1.5 inch trees, you know, and there's no comparison. I think we need to include the whole topic of caliper, because those are the big ones. I mean,
Agreed.
from the sky, you could barely see my roof because I've got the canopy, but it's 3 trees and a neighbor's trees.
But you're clear, this has nothing to do with somebody who already homesteaded, going back and saying, oh, look, you're in violation, you don't have 8 trees. That's not what this is for. This is for developers and people modify.
Yeah, developers, it's people that want to build a house to have their family move here. It's
Those
not,
developers, yeah.
You know, sorry.
I mean, I built a house and I moved here.
Yeah.
I wasn't a developer.
But you
Okay,
didn't plant those trees, right?
No, but for you to say that there's going to be 6, what you can have is a bunch of, you know, small trees because they want to get to that 16. If they could get 4 trees that had an equal caliper and they really invested, you know, it's like when they did Langford Landing, that was a clear cut. That was a clear cut. And then they put a bunch of, you know, twiggy trees up there, which are
People
going to take
complained,
30 years.
by the way.
So I just think that when we're calculating the number of trees, I think we should include caliper.
No, I agree,
think that's,
absolutely.
If I
Let's,
may, it
let's,
does,
I wanted to give, Vice Mayor's been sitting here patiently waiting for his turn, and he's going to get it right now. Go ahead.
All right, I think one of the things that I think it's the most overlooked part, and once again, we've touched on it, but we didn't go deep enough into it. It goes back to education, but even with the packets, the problem is, I've talked to people that moved in just over the last couple of weeks, and they didn't even know there's such a thing as a welcome packet. So I think there's something that needs to be hand-delivered, either by, it could be the chief of police, it could be our town manager, it could be our mayor, whatever we choose, or it could be a combination of everybody.
Or Vice Mayor.
Or vice mayor.
Or vice mayor, yeah.
You had to throw that in, didn't you? Yeah. But the problem is, most people, when I spoke to even some of the people that violated and had to ante up, they were uneducated. So we really want to make sure when they move in that we're able to talk to them immediately. We had one lady, got all excited, moved into the archipelago, and first thing she did, the tree was obstructing her view, the 100-year-old oak tree that was beautiful. So she decided she's going to call a certain guy that just cuts trees. He knocks on people's doors. Would you like me to trim your tree for you? And this guy is the biggest violator, and we've done nothing, and he still cuts trees over here. He should be thrown out of Sewalls Point. And I'm going to say his name right in the meeting. It's John Owens. And he's done horrible jobs. He's taken the limbs off of oak trees, cut them all the ways off where it's just like a stump. And, you know, that's what he calls, you know, because people say, can you cut it down? And he said, oh, come back. It doesn't come back. The tree dies. And this has happened over and over, and people have used him, and they've complained later on that he's basically butchered the tree or killed the tree. And he should not be allowed to cut another tree here in Sewalls Point. And he's also told people, I'll come back over the weekend, meaning that he knows that nobody that works for the town will be active. And so he knows how to beat our system. And we got to put an end to this. And this is like, we're like you touched on it, is trying to educate. And he's not an arborist. He's just a tree cutter. That's all he does is cut trees. And
the name of his business?
John Owens.
Oh,
It's just, you'll see him, he'll go around and he solicits the people. And he goes, would you like me to, when you're outside on your lawn, he'll stop by in his truck and he goes, how would you like me to cut that tree? It looks like it's overgrown. And then he'll come in and he'll do, he just did a good butcher job across the street from me. And, this is the first thing you could do, is eliminating people like this from our town. You'll be a great justice. He's also responsible for some of the people that had to pay into the kitty. He's the one that solicited them, and he goes, we could cut this down, and they cut it down. And he has no liability at all. Meanwhile, the owner had to open up their checkbooks, and this is where you got to start. Educating, we hand deliver a packet, because most people didn't even know we have such a thing as a welcome packet. And how do we find out when somebody moves in? I'll ask the town manager on this. Would you?
There is no one way of finding out when somebody moves in. Some of the realtors that are used to dealing with the town lets us know. Usually, the police department ends up finding out first when there's somebody that's new. And that's how I get the information.
Is there any way we could call the tax collector's office or anything when they see a transaction that they can notify us? And this way we could approach that person? What's it?
FPO.
FP&O?
When you turn your utilities on, that would be a trigger. That would be a choke point.
If we could contact FP&O, so every time
I'll talk to
something like this
Marshall about that.
happens,
They're not going to release that information.
well, maybe, once again, you go, if they don't release it, then we have to go back to the tax collector's office, because they will get that. As soon as they receive it, they can notify us. And we also got to put an end to the hacker who's coming around doing this. He has to come to an end, this guy. It's to the point where I just get very upset every time I see him cutting another tree down. And he's our biggest culprit. I blame him more than I blame the uneducated resident. So, I think eliminating him and educating the people up front, this will not be a problem in our community anymore. It's going to be done with.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I agree with the education up front. Just got to find the best way to do it, but I definitely agree with that sentiment. I wanted to go back to the point that Commissioner Campo was making about the caliper. And Commissioner Fender, you were saying it was more with developers, but if you look at section 70-21 on page 21,
70-21.
it says, any applicant requesting a tree removal permit on an existing residential property with an existing residence must submit a mitigation plan for approval with the application and meet the following minimum requirements.
Sure.
Which include those points about having 8 trees, or 12, or 16.
And it does have a minimum caliber, too, of 3 inches.
Yeah, but that's someone that wants to expand their driveway, not a developer.
I think we're
Wait.
caught up on the semantics of developer. By the way, I have personally submitted a tree permit because I had a tree that was over my son's room that he was allergic to, and I submitted the permit and never heard back. And so after 3 months, I said, whatever happened to my tree permit? She goes, it was denied. And I'm like, what, nobody bothered to tell me? So it doesn't matter. I agree with you.
Sounds like a
you're
Paul Walker move.
You're getting bound up on this developer thing. The point is, we have to protect the trees from us and them and the developers and the people clear cutting and guys like me who have to move a tree because it's impacting my family. When I move that tree and supply that permit, your response should be, sure, I understand you need to move that tree and it's causing an impact. What is your mitigation plan? I'd like, what do I have to do? And you'll say, well, you have to plant a tree of at least 3 inches caliper somewhere on your property. Oh, okay, no problem. I'll mitigate because I do need to move this tree. To be told, no, I can't cut the tree down is without some mitigation process, it seems a little bit onerous to me as a resident. But to be able to have a process where I can move the tree, even at a bigger caliper, by the way, because this was a reasonable sized laurel oak.
Well, when I read this, it makes it sound like if I wanted to go get a tree removed in my home, that I have to submit the mitigation plan for putting in a new one, get the application, and that my property must have the certain amount of trees. So to his point about only having 3 trees, he, in theory, would not meet the requirements to be able to remove a tree. This is how I'm reading it for this one section. So I understand the point about, and you mentioned caliper, but that seems like it's per tree, not total on property.
Right.
So I mean, am I reading it wrong? I mean, that seems strange that I would have to plant new trees if I wanted to go just change out one of my trees in my existing
Like
home
you
right
said,
now.
change out.
But
If
that's
you're
what,
going to change out a tree, that's fine.
no, but that's not how it's reading. I mean, it's fine with you, but I'm looking at this and it says something different.
I think Commissioner Mayfield's
No,
correct.
she's got a point. I mean,
It's reading the wrong way. If you want to remove one tree and you happen to have less than 8, then you'd have to come up to 8.
You have to come up to 8, yes.
12 or whatever.
Yes.
I don't think that's the intention here. The
I don't think
intention
it is
here
either.
that
is
is correct.
to just replace the tree.
That is correct.
So,
So I don't know if we want, if we're doing all this and we want clarity, then I think we need to say,
Well,
Your
you want
counsel.
to relax the.
no, I don't want to, I don't think this is happening right now.
Well, because I think most people are doing a reasonable job, right? The spirit of your ordinance is one thing. Sure, I would like you to have 8 trees on your property. You may say, wait, I only have 3 and I don't want to plant anymore. I'm like, well, okay. So we're probably not going to fine you, but you should have 8 trees on your property.
Yeah, but an ordinance is supposed to be clear cut, not you should.
It is. You should have 8 trees on your property.
No, it says you will or you won't get a permit.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. That's my
Well,
point.
That's why we're having this conversation.
Yes, I don't agree with that. If I wanted right now to go change a tree out and I was going to
You
plant a
should
new one,
plant some
I
trees
should
on your
not have to
property.
plant up to, I should not be required by my
will
government
agree to
plant up
disagree.
to 8. I think that's a little bit,
Well-
I don't think
Excessive.
I think that's beyond the.
Okay, that's okay. I'm not disagreeing with you entirely. I'm kind of joking.
No, I think-
But the question is, what is the wording that you would,
Well, I think-
without watering down the ordinance to the point where it becomes unusable and the spirit of the concept, it gets lost, how would you reword
I
it?
think for existing residential properties where you're just trying to remove a tree, you can go maybe like based on the caliper, like I mentioned before, like Commissioner Campo was saying, like if you have a certain amount of, or maybe if you're going to mitigate it with one more tree, you don't even have to follow that. I mean, now that we're looking at this in depth,
Yeah.
do we even have to have these requirements for just,
Well, can you fix it with a sentence to saying, if you have less, if in your existing residential property, if you have less than 8 trees, by inheritance, I don't know, you are not required to plant more than, you will not be required to mitigate more than the trees that you are impacting. I mean, I think,
Then I don't think you need paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 anymore, do you?
I don't know, I mean,
well,
that's,
this is for,
what
I
happens
think
when
it's
it gets
intended
deep
for the
into the
development
ordinances.
of and renovation of single property.
Existing developed single-family lots.
Yes, that's right.
Commissioner Campo.
Yeah, I
it's
think,
confusing.
I think we're building the airplane while we're building it. What I would advise Commissioner Fender to do is to meet privately with staff and try to work through a lot of this stuff so that we're not doing it in this situation. So that's one
that's
thing.
what we've already done.
Because we're like 3 or 4 meetings in and we're just kind of like digging ourselves into a hole. Lastly, shouldn't there be like a hurricane waiver? The hurricane comes, knocks all sorts of trees and branches down. Shouldn't there be some relief for people that are just trying to get in and out of their driveway? Trying to clear limbs that are like on their property immediately after a hurricane?
I don't understand.
I thought there was something in
Yeah,
here.
there is an emergency
about the
provision in
Emergency
here.
somewhere in the back.
I think it's, where was it? 74.
Oh,
It says 7083 on page 26. Says in case
Maybe
of
waived by the town manager. I mean, we've all been in storms, okay? You know, I mean,
I'm sure we can get that waiver in there.
no, I mean, because you're going to have like out of 950 homes, probably 900 that are wanting to clear. I mean, with a real storm, you know, like Francis and Jean,
was here.
it's a block party, and bring a chainsaw and go help out your neighbors. Waived by town manager. Okay, so can we
I don't know that-
include building official or other designated official? Why is it just one person? I mean, he's gonna
It
have
isn't.
he's gonna have his own trees that he's trying to clear from Jupiter to come up here. That's
It says or designee, so,
or designee. So who's your designee then? Do you
well,
designate-
whoever I'm
all
going
the
to
time.
appoint at that time, but
It's available.
I guarantee if we have a hurricane, I'm going to be here, and probably most of the staff is going to be here. But like what we did with Nicole, We did have a resident that got blocked into their driveway because a limb came down, a large limb came down. So we ended up cutting it up to get them out of their driveway. So, that's just part of the services that we do. So, it's, again, if it was a tremendously bad storm, we would probably have to, go around and just do what you got to do and let's move on,
So was that something, Glenn, that we could, before a hurricane, because that we could say, the storm's coming, Tina always sends out the, don't do this and don't do that and don't call me after it's Hurricane 1, because I'm going to be in the nursing home eating green Jell-O. Anyway, is there any way that we could have some liberty given to residents that says, immediately after the storm, if you need to take emergency actions for large limbs to clear your property, that's part of the order that's given from the town, because this is a bottleneck that's just
What section are you in?
I don't-
70-83.
I don't think it's a bottleneck, and I think giving that kind of authorization before a storm, we'll have people out there with chainsaws before the wind reaches 15 miles
Well,
an hour.
there's some way to remedy that. Unless you're going to have like total disregard, because you're going to have total disregard of these things. So is there any way that we could,
Well, before the storm, my memory is you're not supposed to cut stuff before the storm because.
no,
But after the storm.
well, immediately preceding, yeah,
Right, but right before the storm, you don't
Yeah.
want flying debris, so.
right.
So, if after the storm, I think we all realize after the storm,
It's all clean.
there's gonna be all kinds of trees getting trimmed up because they're in danger and it's gonna meet that criteria of the danger. And there's probably an emergency declaration by the governor. So, you could come up with some language. I'm struggling trying to think of what kind of language that says, in the event of an emergency declared by the governor, the county, the town. I don't know if you want to put this on the manager.
That's a good idea, but, because usually after a storm, the governor will put out something very quickly. Maybe we can use that as authorization.
Maybe he'll sign off.
What's the concern, actually? Because this is about emergencies, and it's saying that these regulations can be waived by the town manager as designee. What are you concerned about? Because it seems like he has the ability to waive everything that you,
I think that setting up an ordinance that's going to be totally disregarded, like Commissioner Mayfield was saying earlier, is, what's the sense of having an ordinance?
in an emergency.
No, in an emergency, 950 people are going to have to go find Bob Daniels in order to sign off on whether they can trim a branch and trees.
No,
It doesn't make sense.
I see what you're saying. You're worried about them having to go find him.
Yeah,
I see it as me putting out something that says, listen, if we're waiving the ordinance because of this emergency.
that's what I'm looking for, Glenn.
One statement that's after the storm, but keep in mind, we have to urge everybody to evacuate during a storm.
Yeah, this is after the storm. So is that something that can be part of a statement? Because we normally send out statements, the roads are clear, don't mess with any power lines.
Right.
And in the case of some urgent trimming,
Right. And the only change we made was putting it on my back to make sure it goes out instead of the mayor's back, because the existing one was the mayor, and, hopefully he's evacuated, and I'm the one that's going to be here, and we can put that message out.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I like
I don't
that.
think there's anything wrong with this wording. I don't know why.
No, well, that's,
This-
I just got the clarification that I was looking for, is that there can be a blanket statement, not 950 people running to see Bob Daniels
Correct.
sign off on something. So Glenn, do you agree with that?
We can do that.
Okay.
And that's my intent.
All right, have we thrashed this thing in the submission yet, or?
Almost, not quite.
Not quite, I was afraid of that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
But I want
Dr.
to give
Renee.
everybody a chance to raise every comment they have about this ordinance. And so I'm patiently listening and semi-arguing.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. So I agree with the point that we should let Glenn now go back and look at some of the wording issues that we have raised in this, and especially in the paragraph related to existing pre-developed single-family homes. Right. That, that seems, but we can, like you said, we can't negotiate it here. We have to have an attorney come back with wording that we can say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. That said, I would like to push back a little bit on, the fact that we don't want to lose the spirit of the ordinance. So, Kai, I'm going to make a couple comments on, most of the things you said were great, but 2 points really that I'm concerned about is on page 22, and the articulation of the state statute within our own statute. I'm not for that. I mean, they can go look in the state statute if they want to have laws looser than ours. I think, I haven't looked at what's scratched and what's not scratched, but I think it says the town may not know, I'd say scratch the whole thing and leave all of section 2 out and let them go look at state statutes for what can't be done, if indeed my feeling is that the state statute is wrong, right? It just, somebody needs to fix it. And they can chase it, that's fine. And if you want to plant less trees, that's great. And there was one other.
Commissioner Mayfield, while you're looking, Frank?
Yeah.
I think that was a while. I don't remember what that one was for. Sorry about that.
7023, and then it's on page 22.
No, I meant, he was calling me out for my light.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so where we're
I
heading,
think I'll leave it with just that one, because that's the biggest one to me, is that
Frank's got some work to do, and he's gonna bring it back, right?
Glenn has some work to do, and he's going to bring it back.
well,
That's that.
I'm, I think the
They're
intent,
a lot cheaper.
I'm sorry, I think the intention here was that, based on our discussion, did we have enough to put the ordinance together? I'm not sure we do at this point, so,
That's why it has to go back for rewording, right?
okay, so, Mr. Daniels, you'll take care of that?
Yes.
And if you need to get any further input from Mr. Fender or the town attorney, you'll do that as well, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you one question?
I'm sorry, no more questions on this, Glenn.
On page 21, 'cause that seems to be an important page. With the half acre, 1 acre. What I think I'm hearing, and this I'm going to clarify, lots greater than half acre, 8 trees, lots greater than 1/2 acre, 12 trees. Is that for vacant land? Or as the commissioner here was talking about, if either one of you remove 1 tree from your property, but you only have 4 trees on your property because they're big, majestic trees.
That's the only concern, what you're saying right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, because
Right.
it says existing residential property with an existing resident.
We just want to make it so that a person who only has 4 trees, like you said, doesn't have to plant 4 more, just because,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
that's
it's
all
one-
we're trying to
it's-
fix.
It's 1-to-1 if you're an existing landowner or existing home without trees on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a vacant lot, then you got to have at least this.
That's
Yes.
right.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Or substantial improvements. That's how it's written
Or
for us.
substantial improvements, right.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
why items
That's
one,
what I thought I heard. I
that's
just
why
wanted-
items 1, 2,
Does
3
tear down
probably
count as a
fit.
vacant lot?
It qualifies
So
substantial
substantial.
I would
improvement.
say yes, right. Anything-
And the only other thing is clarification of mitigation planning versus punitive mitigations. So that very last section, I think,
Yeah, I think it was 31.
just needs to either be pulled up into 7154, combine 7155 with 17154, and then make a separate 155 that is about planning, maybe.
And I thought you should take out number 4 on section 70-21.
70-20.
Bob, you have all these comments,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
Unless we need to go through them
Renovation of any-
again.
Remove
Okay.
trees unless approved by the,
Look,
okay, and that was the other one. I said there were 2, that was the one that I was pushing back on.
Commissioner Campo?
The only comment that I'll make is, we're giving a lot up for Bob to work on. We're working on the biggest project of our lifetime. And I just, my own self want to voice that although, we want to move ahead and we want to make progress here, that number one priority is all these construction projects. And that if you find yourself in a situation where, do I handle this $8.4 million grant, or do I, take my tape measure out to start measuring trees, that you have the trust of the commission to use your own discretion on, how this fits into your other projects. Would
I
you all
think he's
agree?
smart enough to handle all that.
Yes, and if I can't get it done in time for the next meeting, it'll still be there for the meeting after that. So yes, thank you.
Okay, that brings us down to commission and staff closing comments. Mr. Daniels?
Yes. I did want to share with you all an email that I received today. And it says, "Hi, Bob. Went to my first Sewalls Point Easter egg hunt on Friday with my 18-month-old granddaughter on Friday. Only been living in the town for the past 28 years." So very nice job by the town to put this on. And I had so many people come up to me. I really think our staff did an outstanding job, and I appreciate those of you that were able to come and add to the festivity. And that's really gets everybody together when we do these events. So I know we were talking about, the Arbor Day event, and, there's, the 4th of July, which I haven't been here for yet. But, those are the things, if we can do things in our community to help everybody gel together. And there's a lot of tension that goes on between work and trying to have a peaceful environment, and then also trying to have a party when you want to have a party. So, we all live in a community that has to be flexible and understandable. And I think the more we can put emphasis on some of these events, the more positive responses that we'll get out of our residents in the future.
Okay. Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I have two things. I mentioned this at the last meeting, but through the Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities, a week from tomorrow, April 19th, is a home rule meeting, open to anybody in Martin County pretty much. And we have Tom Campenny here, who is going to help us with that meeting, and the commissioner in Stewart and Ocean Breeze. So I encourage any and all residents to come learn about home rule and the current Tallahassee legislation.
That's 5 p.m.
5:30 at the Flagler Center. I believe not the rec center, the Flagler Center, I think.
It's just the flag.
The flag, okay. I keep wanting to add center to. Yes, so please encourage people to attend. And I believe there's going to be an email going out to residents. Is that correct? Okay, good. Good, good. Excellent. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, if it was okay with the commission, and maybe I don't know if we'd put it on another agenda, if you guys agree or don't agree, we won't. But in July, I was speaking with the town manager about summer schedules, and he mentioned he would be out of town at the end of July. We have 2 meetings scheduled, I believe July 11th and July 25th, something like that. So he was talking about maybe if there wasn't anything that needed to be addressed, maybe potentially doing one meeting, and to conveniently arrange it with my schedule, I suggested that July 18th would be a good date. So just in case that all works for you, to do one meeting in July on July 18th. If not, I will be there for the meeting on the 11th, but
Okay, we can.
I know people have summer plans, so.
Let's bring that up again so everybody's a chance to check their calendar.
Okay,
Sounds good.
all right, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fender?
Yeah, just real quick. I do have that on my calendar for April 19th, right? Coming up in a couple days. And just wanted to say that town manager's comments about the Easter festival were spot on. It's a great event. I saw most of you out there, and obviously there was, it seemed like more kids this year than in past years. So it was a really well-attended event, and like you said, things like that build the culture of our community. And there has been talk in the past about the pressure it does put on staff to put those events on, but to me, it's an investment well worth bringing the community together for all of those, and including your new one if it becomes a real thing. So yes, nice job, all staff who participated in that event. Well
I
done.
know Chief Tina's not here to
Yeah,
say
Chief Tina's
thank you
not
to her.
She's under the weather, so otherwise she'd be here, but,
Yeah, it did a real nice job. I like hats, so naturally I like the
Just can
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Kurzman.
Also, if things are slow in August, can we do one meeting in August too? It's a good time for vacations.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring that up at the next meeting, and we can
Okay.
officially vote on it and see if it works. Okay, I have just two quick items. As much as I enjoyed talking about trees, I was hoping that at the next meeting, we get a detailed capital projects update, including construction schedule, procurement, finance, grants, the whole ball of wax. We haven't done that in a while, and I think we'd all be interested in, and that would, that would probably take about a half an hour, so give Joe plenty of time to give us that. And I guess the other thing we've been talking about a little bit is the town manager evaluation. I think everybody's gotten their evaluation forms in. And
That'll be on the agenda.
I was hoping that we could do that as well, and also to, evaluate the town manager performance against the performance goals we put together.
yes.
Commissioner Campo.
I agree with everything my fellow commissioners have said and the town manager, so thank you for all your support. I think very eloquently stated, good teamwork, good leadership. And I think it's just one of the things I want to mention. I was in Tallahassee trying to track down our $1 million appropriation, working with Chloe. I went up a few weeks ago. I spoke to Chloe and the town manager a couple times. I had dinner with the state senator in her LA and met with Toby and John Snyder, and we are in the House side of that budget. We are not in the Senate side, but we're trying to find a back door so that we can meet it off in the conference committee. I think we've got a good game plan. I think Chloe's on top of it. I think Bob's on top of it, and have some back channels that we're trying to work. It's the final push, probably another 2 weeks.
Yes.
So, this would be the time to send emails to those three and say how important it is that we connect the dots with South Sewalls Point Road project and keep this going. And hopefully we'll have some VIPs available for upcoming ribbon cutting. And it would be great to say, hey, thanks for that support. But this is the time that we need all court press on this $1 million.
Mr. Mayor, there was one thing too that I wanted to mention. The lot is on the market on Heritage, 7 Heritage, and I want to commend our town clerk. She's been great with getting the information on our website and figuring out ways of getting that accomplished. And so we're on our website, we're on Facebook, we've run ads in the paper, and we're getting the word out with the realtors in the area, and we just keep plugging away. So I just wanted to let y'all know.
Okay, great. Any other commission comments? Mr. Torcivia, any comments you'd like to add?
None at all.
Okay, a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.